Today we're at Jean's Trailhead in the Calico Basin outside of Las Vegas. And this is Calico Basin Road. And Jean's Trailhead is not too far up from Highway 159, the road that takes you to Red Rock Canyon. And what we're going to do today is look at the daily workout conditioning trails in the Calico Basin. There's a pretty extensive network of trails in the Calico Basin, and what I'm going to try to do is make sense of this, identify as many as I can. Most of them are unmarked, but I want to start by making a large circuit around the whole Calico Basin, and then of course there are trails within that circuit, but I'm going to make a circuit starting with, it's going to be a clockwise circuit, starting with the Donkey Way Trail and the Freeway Trail. Donkey Way Trail right across the road here. Freeway Trail is on that ridge ahead. The great thing about this Calico Basin network of trails is that it's only about 3 miles from Las Vegas. And so it's a network that you can access for daily conditioning. There's no entrance fee or entrance gate. Easy to access. Here is the Donkey Way Trail. And what we're going to do is take a left up here and see if we can find that ridge, which I believe is the Freeway Trail. So let's go ahead and start up there. Okay, already there are two choices. You could go up this way, or there's another little trail over here. I want to stay to the outer circuit here, so I'm going to go up this way, heading for the Freeway Trail. Yeah, because we want to get on top of that ridge. Here we go. Okay, we're on top of the ridge, looking back down at Jean's Trailhead, and then over across from the trailhead is Jean's Trail. There's another trail called Peak 3844 Trail. Heads up to this trail. And let's get a look at some of the other trails. The trail network here in the basin, and you can see the whole basin here. The trail network in the basin is largely unmarked, as I mentioned, and you can pretty much piece together any of a number of potential workouts here in the basin. And they range from distance, because piecing together different trails in this network, you can definitely create a distance of, I don't know, if you weave around all the trails, you could probably do a marathon in here if you wanted. And then there's also strength training, which is gained by doing hills, and there's the Peak 3844, gain strength by going up to the peak or heading upward along the trails, various trails that go up. Or you could easily head over to the Brownstone Basin and take the Brownstone Trail all the way up to its summit at the base of the La Madre Mountains. In fact, it's about a fifth of the way up the La Madre Mountains by the time you get to the top of that trail. So that'd be an excellent strength training trail. All of these trails, you can select your distance and run that trail or walk or mountain bike. Some of the trails that we're going to see are the Calico Basin Trail, which starts at the Red Springs Desert Oasis. We saw the Donkey Trail, which is below us. There's Craft Mountain. There's an amazing loop that goes all the way around the mountain. It's about a 5-mile loop. Very challenging trail. It's a trail that you can run. I pointed out Craft Mountain. Let's point out some of the other landmarks here. There's Turtlehead Peak. Behind are the La Madre Mountains. La Madre Mountain on the right, El Padre Mountain on the left. That's a ridge line. Extends even further to the left. Here is the Calico Hills. Divides the Calico Basin, Red Rock Canyon. And here are the Rainbow Mountains. Bridge Mountain, Rainbow Mountain, Mount Wilson, Indecision Peak. And then over here is Blue Diamond Hill. And that entire area has another huge network of daily workout possibilities, and we'll take a look at that also. In fact, I've got a lot of that already on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. So let's continue on. Okay, this first stretch is the Freeway Trail to the southern tip of the Calico Hills, where we're going to connect with the Donkey Way Trail. As I mentioned, I'm going to share from my wilderness navigation wisdom. When it comes to gear, these trekking poles are truly valuable. I make them from last year's yucca stalks, and you can see the whole process of making these poles on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. The value of these poles is mostly on long, steady stretches, or even more importantly, on avalanche slopes like what you see, Turtlehead Peak, the La Madre Mountain ridgeline. Truly valuable. They're sturdy. They help harness my upper body strength. They absorb shock, especially on the downhill. One limitation is that they do not fold, as you can see. I can't put them in my backpack. And so when I'm in terrain, such as the Calico Hills, the trekking poles are not helpful. I have to carry them as I'm climbing over rocks and boulders. Makes it difficult. So, as I mentioned, the most valuable use of the trekking poles is on straight stretches, trails, avalanche slopes. One of the great advantages of doing your daily conditioning on trails like this, rather than in the city on asphalt and cement, is the surface. The surface, as you can see, is varied. So every time your foot touches the ground, it's at a slightly different angle, which strengthens a different set of muscles all the way up your body. And if you're doing your daily conditioning on asphalt or cement, you're repetitively striking the same surface pretty much the same way, and that can lead to repetitive motion injuries. You don't get those so much on these trails. In fact, the surface is much more friendly, softer, which will help prevent injuries like shin splints. That's one of the great advantages of doing your workout on trails. Another advantage of working out on trails like this is that there's more uphill and downhill, and hills build strength. The surface also builds agility, and if you're building strength, plus agility, you're way ahead. And another even more obvious advantage is that instead of looking at buildings and instead of dealing with the noise of passing cars, stoplights, you're in the wilderness and you're looking at views like the views we're looking at right now. Wouldn't you rather work out in this kind of a setting? And by the way, another advantage of the unevenness of the surface here is that it strengthens your ankles and also your knees. But let's talk about the ankles. If you are used to working out on asphalt and cement, and then all of a sudden you decide, oh, it's the weekend, I'm going to go up in the mountains and walk or run on trails, your chances of spraining your ankle are a lot greater. Where on the other hand, if you've strengthened your ankles at least a few times a week on surfaces like this, you're much more prepared for the trails. Okay, here's a place on the Freeway trail that we can get our bearings, see some of the other areas we're going to be on. So we're on the Freeway trail on this ridge. Below us, you can see the Donkey Way Trail. Donkey Way Trail, a nice wide trail. Makes for great running or walking or mountain biking, as does the Freeway trail, but that's a little wider. And so we're going to continue on this ridge on the Freeway trail. Then we're going to descend to the southern tip of the Calico Hills. And here's the southern tip. Some beautiful rock formations down here. And we will then head up to Red Springs Ridge. This in the foreground is Red Springs Ridge. And we'll descend into the Red Springs Desert Oasis and then catch the Calico Basin Trail along the east side of the Calico Hills ahead. Here's another advantage to doing your daily conditioning on these beautiful trails. Not only do you get to be in the wilderness, but it's pretty much snow-free year-round. If you were hiking up in the mountains, you can see where already, and it's the first weekend in February, there's a lot of snow in the mountains around us. And the snow and the ice create hazardous surface conditions. But not on these trails. Pretty much guaranteed that throughout the winter, the surface is free of snow and ice, and it's a good surface as opposed to, let's say it rained yesterday or this morning. You were to try to navigate the sandstone of the Calico Hills or other similar areas. For example, the Grand Staircase, when those rocks are wet, they're like a skating rink, but you can get good traction on these trails even after a rain and perhaps even during a rain. We've been talking about the advantage of doing your daily workout on uneven surfaces in that it strengthens your ankles. Another advantage is that with stronger ankles, you don't need the ankle support of hiking boots, which are heavier. And so I use, rather than hiking boots, a good pair of trail running shoes. And since they're lighter and my ankles are free, There's more flexibility and agility on the trails and on difficult surfaces. And speaking of footwear strategy, here's another important element in that strategy, is that shoes have a limited lifespan, and they will the soles will look great, but the shoes are dead. And so people that wear shoes too long past their lifespan are really risking joint injuries because the cushioning effect of the shoes is not as great. And the reason I'm lifting up the tongue here is that you can see a tag underneath the tongue of this shoe. And if you zoom in and look closely, you can see that there is a manufacture date. Look at the manufacture date of the shoes. If you get shoes on sale, the manufacture date is likely much further in the past. There is a reason why you want to know the manufacture date, because this lighter gray layer on the sole, it's called EVA, and it degenerates over time, whether the shoe is being used or not. It's got a lifespan of maybe 6 to 8 months before it stops cushioning your joints. And so you want to get shoes that have a manufacture date, the most recent manufacture date possible. Look at the tag, all shoes have them. And probably 6 to 8 months from that manufacture date, the shoes are good. They begin to degenerate after that time. Time for a new pair of shoes, even if the top of your shoe is still looking great. The shoes are looking great. You think, oh wow, these are like new. No, they're not. The EVA has degenerated. So that gives you a little insight into the strategy of selecting shoes and when it's time to change out an old pair of shoes for a newer pair. And by the way, why trail running shoes? Well, trail running shoes have better traction. These are kind of old, but a new pair would have even better traction than what you see here. And the soles are specially designed to grip rocks, even wet surfaces, the sandstone that you're going to experience. And also notice how the heel of the shoe splays outward a little bit. That gives you additional traction on the trails. If you're wearing your pair of walking or running shoes that you got for city conditioning workouts, the chances are the heel is not going to splay out like this. So you think, oh, this is a great pair of athletic shoes. You take them on the trail, you're much more likely to sprain your ankle or have an injury. Another thing to notice with shoes when you purchase them is, do they have pronation support, which keeps you from going in this direction, spraining your ankle, or supination support, which keeps you from going in this direction and getting an injury. I like to get neutral shoes because I can say that just about every time I've used shoes that have pronation or supination support, I've blown out my knees for some reason. So neutral shoes work best for me. You need to figure out by trial and error which works best for you. As you do your daily conditioning on trails, at first you need to be consciously aware of the uneven surfaces on the trail, rocks and other different kinds of surface items that could trip you up. And you're watching for those. And it's good training. But I can say if you're persistent, eventually, as you become more familiar with the trails, or even on trails that you're not familiar with, if you're used to running or walking on trails, your subconscious takes over. And it's almost like your feet have eyes, and you're freer to enjoy the views around you without always looking at your feet, because somehow subconsciously you become conditioned to traverse uneven surfaces. It just takes a lot of time and practice. At first, be very conscious of the surface until you strengthen your ankles and you begin to gain that subconscious awareness. Then you become very free, and it's a beautiful thing. The trails are simply wonderful. And I would say that this new habit of traversing this kind of terrain on a regular basis for your daily conditioning, it takes about 6 months to really gain that habit and to gain the subconscious awareness, the ankle strength, the knee strength, all your joints. It takes about 6 months before you're really going to be free to lift up your eyes a lot more and enjoy the wilderness around you. So let's get back to our route. And what we're going to do is continue along this ridge on the Freeway trail, and then we'll eventually descend on the lower Calico Hills trail, which is down in this area. And we're going to descend to the southern base of the Calico Hills, right here, and into this beautiful sandstone boulder area below. Following that, we're going to ascend to the Red Springs Ridge Trail, which is right along this ridge line in the foreground, in front of the Craft Mountain behind. Along the way, I'm going to point out alternate routes in this great trail network that we're not going to take. And here's one that descends down into the Calico Basin below and connects more directly with the Red Springs Ridge Trail, which you can see ahead there. On the other hand, we're going to continue straight and then descend on the lower Calico Hills trail, make a bit of a wider circuit. But you can take any of these variations just to spice things up in your daily conditioning routine. Here's another trail tip. It has to do with clothing. Rather than wear a heavy jacket, wear layers of clothing that you can take off as you heat up when you're going up a hill, or as the sun begins to heat up the land. Take off the layers and work for equilibrium in your temperature control. Don't try to be warm during the first part of your hike or run, but rather dress at the beginning for how you're going to feel about a half mile into the adventure. You'll be a little cold at first if it's the winter, but you don't want to overheat. If you overheat, it's going to use additional water. You'll dehydrate more. And another thing about the layers is that you want to use the type of clothing that is going to wick away the moisture. Polyester tends to do that, and different varieties of polyester. You don't want to wear cotton. If you wear cotton, yeah, you'll be warmer at the very beginning, but as you ascend mountains and hills, and it gets colder up in the mountains and the hills, you've got this wet t-shirt, wet clothing that's cotton, and that begins to freeze and you could have hypothermia. It becomes very uncomfortable. So use layers of clothing and seek to maintain equilibrium in your body temperature. Okay, we're just about at the point we're going to descend onto the Lower Calico Hills Trail, and there is the trail connector. That's where you turn right to descend onto the Lower Calico Hills Trail and to the base, the southern base of the Calico Hills. That beautiful boulder area below. We'll pass right through that. And from here, you can see Blue Diamond Hill. And over here is the Red Rock Canyon Visitor Center. Rainbow Mountains in the background. La Madre Mountain Ridgeline, the Calico Hills, tip of Trailhead Peak, and up ahead is the Calico Hills 1 viewpoint on the Red Rock Canyon Scenic Drive. So just gives you an idea where we are. And by the way, if you continued straight here, you could take the Grand Circle Loop, or you could also take the 3 basin circuit, Red Rock Canyon, Calico Basin, and Brownstone Basin, which are both video documented on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. Instead, we're taking the right here and descending to the southern tip of the Calico Hills straight ahead. Continuing now to descend on the Lower Calico Hills Trail down to the southern tip of the Calico Hills ahead. I'll show you where this trail connects with the Red Springs Ridge Trail, which is our next trail. Actually, this next connector is with the Donkey Way Trail, which we will be on until we get to the Red Springs Trail. Okay, I took it a little off track just to go through this beautiful boulder section. Again, we're on the southern base of the Calico Hills, which is above. Now we could have remained on that trail, Lower Calico Hills Trail, or Donkey Way Trail, on the other side of this little wash, but I just wanted to go through this boulder section. Very beautiful, and most people never see it because it's not on the main trail system. Southern end of the Calico Hills. All these boulders which seem to have fallen pretty much at once. Some kind of seismic event in history. And those two hikers ahead are on the Red Springs Ridge Trail. We'll be taking a left onto that trail in just a bit. We'll head up to Red Springs Ridge. And here's where we connect with the Red Springs Ridge Trail. We'll ascend Red Springs Ridge here and then descend into the Red Springs Desert Oasis. South end of the Calico Hills area we just traversed. By the way, I mentioned where the trekking poles really shine. And it's on surfaces like this, fairly steep, and many even steeper, where you can harness your upper body strength, gain more stability on the loose rock. And as we're ascending the Red Springs Trail, Red Springs Ridge Trail, I just have to point this out on the southwest corner of the Calico Hills, how this huge formation stays connected is a real mystery, but very beautiful. And by the way, one of those trails that I mentioned we weren't going to take when we were up on the ridge on the Freeway trail is this trail here. It's kind of a cutoff trail. Takes you up to that ridge. You can take a left and then return to the Calico Basin. But let's continue up the Red Springs Ridge Trail. And now here we are on Red Springs Ridge. Beautiful viewpoint up there. And that's above that precariously positioned boulder that we saw a moment ago. And you could continue on the Red Springs Ridge. That'll take you back down to Jean's Trail. What we're going to do is we're heading down to the beautiful Red Springs Desert Oasis. You see the green grass down below. There's a great little 1 mile boardwalk you can take in a circuit as many times as you want. Great surface. We'll see it in just a moment. So we're going to take that. We're going to descend and take that in a clockwise direction. And conveniently at the base of this trail, there's a little gate that lets you into the Red Springs Desert Oasis Boardwalk. We'll enter that gate and then take the boardwalk in a clockwise direction. Okay, here we are entering the Red Springs Desert Oasis Boardwalk. And I'll take a few clips along the way here. Very popular. There are a lot of interpretive signs along the way. You can learn a lot about the Calico Basin, Red Rock Canyon, and this portion of the desert just by reading the signs. And you also learn about these Jurassic sandstone hills that are they date back to the Jurassic era, and the reds are iron, from iron leaching up through the hills, which were formerly sand dunes. Now they're frozen sand dunes. You'll see darker areas in the hills, which are iron oxide, and actually that made a great surface for Native Americans to create petroglyph drawings. That little platform ahead is where you see the hikers dancing. That is an area that's used a lot for weddings. And you can freeze the video to see these displays, read them. Here's a place that has some petroglyphs. By the way, right in the center of the screen is the grand staircase. You can see that diagonal depression, and you can see a video documentation ascending the grand staircase on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. And it ascends up to the summit of the Calico Hills. And here's where you descend out of the loop and down to the parking area. Or you can take the loop again, as many times as you want. Just keep adding up the distance. Here we are at the base of the trail, or the boardwalk, and the trailhead parking. And now our next trail is the Calico Basin Trail. We're going to catch it right here. And this trail will take us along the eastern edge of the Calico Hills and on up to Craft Mountain area. The next trail we catch after this will be the Girl Scout Trail. And in the park's never-ending goal of keeping people on the trail instead of going through wilderness areas and destroying the whole place, they found a great way to keep people on the trail. Now, as we continue on the Calico Basin Trail, let's get our bearings. As I said, we're skirting the east base of the Calico Hills. And we're heading toward Craft Mountain, which is right in the center. But we're taking the roundabout circuit here. I'll point out additional side adventures you can take from this trail. Now, if you want to make any of these trails a full body workout, one thing you can do is notice some of the boulders. See the white chalk marks? These are made by athletes that practice bouldering. If you don't have the equipment that they bring, you don't want to go too high, but just find a very low ledge that you can put your hands on and raise yourself up, do pull-ups. Another thing to notice here, I mentioned I would show some of the side trails. There is the black corridor. You can head up that corridor and descend into Red Rock Canyon. And we'll be passing the black corridor soon. And there's the black corridor side trip to Red Rock Canyon. I guess you could make that a conditioning trail. That'd be a full body workout with all those boulders. Get to the top, you can see both the Calico Basin and Red Rock Canyon at once. Beautiful little trail. I've got a couple videos on that in the Calico Hills upper and lower loops. And here's a little deviation down in this direction, shortcut over to Craft Mountain, where we're going to continue on the outer rim here of these trails. But like I said, all these little split off deviations can give you a lot of variety in your daily workouts. We're approaching the black corridor. We'll take a look up that corridor when we get closer. And this Calico Basin Trail, very well marked as opposed to the other ones we've been on. Lots of signs along the way so you don't get off course. Although, if you do, just look at the large features, the ridges and the hills around you, and the center of the Calico Basin. Approaching the black corridor. At the base of the corridor, we'll connect with the Girl Scout Trail, and there ahead you can see the Trailhead sign. That's where we take a right As we continue on this outer loop, you'll notice a lot of branching off trails. Here's another branching off trail. So once you've gotten familiar with the outer loop, try some of those other trails to add variety. And here we are now at the trailhead for the Girl Scout trail that will take us to Ash Spring and Craft Mountain. Well, let's just take a closer look at that black corridor we've been talking about. Definitely full body workout. I've got a page on it on LasVegasAreaTrails.com that describes navigation strategy on this pathless corridor. Let's just trace our way upward. The main piece of advice I'd give is stay high and stay to the left above the center of the corridor. And here we go now, up the Girl Scout Trail. And here we are on this Girl Scout trail, very well marked with lots of signs along the way. But again, you'll notice a lot of branching off trails that take you to different places. And yeah, here's a little picnic area up here. Pretty nice. And what are we looking at? There is the Craft Mountain Trailhead area. At the base of Craft Mountain. We'll be there soon. And we'll just do a quick 360 here, give you perspective. And when we, well, let's see, here's Hell Hill going through Pink Goblin Pass. And that's on the Craft Mountain Loop. And over this little ridge, we'll descend into Ash Spring, very beautiful area. Maybe not so much in February as in March or April, but very beautiful. And then we'll connect with the Ash Spring Trail there, and after that connect with the Craft Mountain Loop Trail to take us around the base of Craft Mountain. And continuing on the Girl Scout Trail, you can see another trail split ahead, and we'll see down at the base of that split whether we take the left split and hug the edge of the Calico Hills here, or whether we take the right split as these people have done. Either way works. And it looks like the Girl Scout Trail takes the left split. You can see the sign here. So yeah, it's going to continue hugging the Calico Hills until it descends into Ash Canyon, or Ash Spring, I mean. And that right split was a shortcut back to the Craft Mountain Trailhead parking area. And here's a little unmarked turn. Looks like the trail heads down this hill here instead of up along the rocks. I went up there just a moment ago, and yeah, it ends with a ledge. So I would take this trail down. Here we go. Here's a great perspective. If you look at the Pink Goblin Loop page on LasVegasAreaTrails.com, you'll see how you can loop around this hill, which is just to the left or west of Craft Mountain. And you head up Pink Goblin Pass on the Hell Hill Trail. It's actually part of the Craft Mountain Loop Trail. Descend into Gateway Canyon and then ascend the Rattlesnake Trail along the back side of this hill. Finally, loop around the hill and descend Ash Canyon. And you see that whole adventure video documented on LasVegasAreaTrails.com, Pink Goblin Loop. And below is beautiful Ash Spring. It's starting to green up even in early February. All those dormant trees that you see, or at least most of them, are Gamble's oak trees. And you'll also see the largest desert holly trees that I've ever seen anywhere. Here's one, and there are others ahead. So definitely Ash Spring is a great place to explore. And it's not very far from the Craft Mountain Trailhead parking area, which is right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the Ash Spring Trail through Ash Spring. We're descending right here into Ash Spring. We're going to take the Ash Spring Trail, take a right turn, and then connect with the Craft Mountain Loop Trail and head around the base of Craft Mountain. Okay, descending now into Ash Spring. And our next trail is the south edge of the Craft Mountain Loop, where we'll skirt the south edge of Craft Mountain. And here's a beautiful little temporary waterfall. Rained yesterday. And you'll see these throughout the spring months. Everything dries up in the summer. Go ahead and pick one of the many branching off little trails through Ash Spring. Your goal is to emerge on this side and then find the Craft Mountain Loop Trail. And here we are now at the awesome Craft Mountain Loop Trail. And what we're going to do is see where that trail connects, takes us along the southern base of Craft Mountain. And the Craft Mountain Trailhead parking area is just below there. And Ash Spring area is in this direction. So let's find the trail connector and take the Craft Mountain Loop Trail around the base of Craft Mountain. And we're on the Craft Mountain Loop Trail, heading up toward Hell Hill. we don't want to go all the way around Craft Mountain, although it is a beautiful workout trail. You can run much of it. It's about 5 miles for the whole loop. We're going to see if we can find a right branching trail that'll take us along the base of Craft Mountain. And by the way, I mentioned earlier that these trails are snow and ice free most of the year around. There's one time that you may not want to be on the Calico Basin trail system doing your daily workouts, and that's midday during the summer months when temperatures can reach the upper 90s, maybe even over 100 degrees. At that time, yeah, you could do your workout very early in the morning throughout the summer, but only from sunrise to the next couple hours. And this may be that split to the right. I'm going to go ahead and take it. Put us on the Craft Mountain Loop. And let's see. Yeah, there are a few choices here. I want to find the main one. Gets a little sketchy in this area. Yeah, you can see this goes down up to that boulder. Nice workout area. You can see the white chalk marks on the boulder indicating people with bouldering skills are practicing on that boulder. You don't want to go too high unless you have your bouldering mat to keep you from falling on the hard surface below. Lots of boulders. Pick your boulder and just find a little handhold. Do some pull-ups. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's see if we can head along in this direction. Yeah, maybe I've hit the Craft Mountain Loop. We don't know. A lot of these little trails just lead to boulders for climbers to practice. We just came down from this ridge right behind this boulder. And we're definitely in a boulder practice area. A lot of cool handholds. Very low on the boulders where you can hold on and then drop down. You can do some pull-ups. Full body workout. Let's continue along here. I think this may be the highest trail that leads along the southern base of Craft Mountain, which is above. And that's exactly what we want, because we want to be on the Craft Mountain Loop now, which is our next trail. Okay, so far so good. I think we may be on the Craft Mountain Loop. You want to get as close to the base of Craft Mountain as you can in order to be on that loop trail, and also on the outer circuit of the Calico Basin, which we're doing today. And there's Craft Mountain. Okay, let's continue. And by the way, this loop, as I mentioned, goes around the base of Craft Mountain all the way around. for about 5 miles complete. And yeah, you can take it clockwise or counterclockwise. Look on LasVegasAreaTrails.com for the Craft Mountain Loop in the Calico Basin section, and you can see the video documentation of taking the loop in both directions. Okay, continuing along the loop trail, Craft Mountain Loop. You see it's nicely marked. Somebody's taken the time to create a little rock border along this trail. It's a lot of rocks to place. Now let's look around here, see what we can see. Craft Mountain. There's the direction we just came from. Calico Hills. Blue Diamond Hill in the center there. And we're basically taking part of the loop, the southern part of the loop, in a counterclockwise direction for this stretch. There's a little bouldering practice going on. You see someone with a huge mattress on their back. They put that at the base of the boulder so that if they lose their hold, they land on something soft, because out here in this wilderness, there are no soft landings unless you create them. Okay, we are approaching the southeast side of Craft Mountain. When we first hit the loop, we were on the southwest side of Craft Mountain, and we skirted the southern base of the mountain. What you see ahead is Gateway Canyon. That's where we're going to leave the Craft Mountain Loop to continue our large circuit of the Calico Basin, and we will cross Gateway Canyon and then get onto the Gateway Washington Trail, continuing east. Closing in on Gateway Canyon, which is this canyon. And now if you were taking the Craft Mountain Loop in the counterclockwise direction, you'd stay on this trail to round Craft Mountain. You can see that on LasVegasAreaTrails.com, where we complete the entire loop in both directions, video documenting. But as I mentioned, we're going to head to the right across Gateway Canyon onto the Gateway Washington Trail. And the trail marker for that trail split is right up ahead. And this is Gateway Canyon. On the Craft Mountain Loop, counterclockwise. And here's where we descend through Gateway Canyon onto the Gateway Washington Trail. And I'll show you where Jean's Trail connection is a little further on. In fact, the sign here says Jean's, but actually, for now, it's the Gateway Washington Trail. We just crossed Gateway Canyon, and there ahead, up Gateway Canyon, you can see Trailhead Peak. And we're going to take a left here and head from Jean's Trail, branch off to the Gateway Washington Trail. I think this is it. And this formation, the higher formation ridge in the background, I call this the Brownstone Ridge, division between Brownstone Basin on the other side, Calico Basin on this side. Things get a little sketchy over here. You just have to know that you are basically on the Gateway Washington Trail right now. And you see that ridge ahead. The goal is to skirt that, the lower right side of that ridge. Okay, continuing on the Gateway Washington Trail, but as I promised earlier, I'd show you some branching off trails that cut through this large circuit we're making. And up in this direction, over this hill in the foreground, this ridge, would be Jean's Trail, connecting back to the Jean's Trailhead. Over here is peak 3844, and there's a trail to that peak, and you can take that ridge to the left of the peak and around the peak and then circle around to Jean's Trailhead. You see some power lines, and those are on what I call the power line maintenance trail. You can see all these trails on LasVegasAreaTrails.com, but you can see the line of the power lines if you look carefully. That's a straight shot. And the other direction of the Gateway Washington Trail. But yeah, the power lines. And you can take that, and that's a nice little power line maintenance road. Cuts right through the area, another one of those inner trails. And over at the end of this ridge, you see the ridge to the right. When you hit the end of the ridge, that's where we're going to connect with the Half Wilson Trail and circle around to Jean's Trailhead for the complete outer circuit of the Calico Basin trail system. And again, as I mentioned earlier, all these trails we have been on today on this outer circuit at the Calico Basin area. You can take them at a walk or a run, with a few places you might want to be a little careful, but for the most part, yeah, you could run these, and makes for an awesome daily conditioning workout. Okay, now we're connecting with the Powerline Maintenance Road Trail, straight shot, and that's going to take us over to the edge of Brownstone Basin and Calico Basin. And here we are, Powerline Maintenance Road Trail. Trailhead Peak on the right, Craft Mountain on the left. And here's the Powerline Maintenance Road. You see the power lines just above us. Okay, the thing here is to top that low ridge ahead and then take a right onto the Half Wilson Trail. And here's a good look at Brownstone Ridge, all the way from that high point and then down. At some point we may take this ridge, not certain. Looks pretty crazy up near the top. Okay, I believe this is where we leave the Powerline Maintenance Road Trail, and we hit the Half Wilson Trail. Not totally sure. We'll find out. It could be a little further, that we need to go a little further up the ridge to the left. But let's try this. I think this is it. Yeah, I believe we're on track. On the Half Wilson Trail. And to get perspective here, what you're seeing is the ridge right ahead that separates Calico Basin and Brownstone Basin on the other side. And there's one other trail that I would classify as one of the daily conditioning workout trails, and it's the Brownstone Trail. It's a real killer uphill, all the way about, I'd say 20% up the base of the La Madre mountain ridge line. So yeah, that's excellent for strength building and if you're training for a marathon. But we're taking this circuit for now. It's going to take us around and back to Jean's Trailhead. This is the Half Wilson Trail. Another look at Peak 3844 and the Half Wilson Trail here. And we're going to go over this low ridge ahead and then circle down to Jean's Trailhead. And just for perspective, straight ahead, you're looking at Blue Diamond Hill. That's a good landmark because, as I've said, none of these trails on this side of the circuit that we're making have any signage. There's someone standing on peak 3844. And it's got its own trail. We'll try out some of these inner trails in the Calico Basin trail network. Continuing on the Half Wilson Trail, now using Blue Diamond Hill to the left as our guide as we near Jean's Trailhead. Give you a quick 360, Blue Diamond Hill. Half Wilson Trail toward Brownstone Basin. Peak 3844. Back to the Half Wilson Trail. Continuing on the Half Wilson Trail, and soon we will be able to see Jean's Trailhead, where we began. And there's Blue Diamond Hill, Rainbow Mountains. Bad lighting at this time of day. Half Wilson Trail continuing, and you can see down in this direction Highway 159. Soon we'll be seeing Calico Basin Road and Jean's Trailhead. Let's get another look at peak 3844. There it is from this angle. Half Wilson Trail behind us, and by the way, there's Summerland Ridge. And onward towards Jean's Trailhead on Calico Basin Road. Okay, now the Half Wilson Trail is going to take a left, and it's going to head up this ridge line. Maybe you can see the trail. Over the ridge and descend to Jean's Trailhead. And by the way, the eastern end of these trails is used a lot by mountain bikers. They have more room to maneuver, less people here. And I'm not sure if you can take a mountain bike on the western edge, the Calico Hills edge of the Calico Basin. Speaking of the Calico Hills, there they are, right over the ridge. And here we are ascending what I believe is the final ridge before Jean's Trailhead, although this whole experience is often a matter of you see one ridge ahead, you think it's the final ridge, and you cross that ridge, and then there's another one. So, not totally sure, but let's head up here and see. Okay, nearing the summit of this little ridge on the Half Wilson Trail. Well, let's take a moment here to look back over the Half Wilson Trail. And you can see there is where the trail circled Peak 3844. Here's another view of Peak 3844. And you see the trail circling the base of that peak and then rounding it on the other side. And on the other side of that peak is the power line maintenance trail. Okay, let's continue around this bend, see if we can indeed see Calico Basin Road. Yes, there's the entrance of Calico Basin Road where it meets up with Highway 159. Which is the highway that goes from the Red Rock Casino area to Red Rock Park. Yeah, there we are. Jean's Trailhead on Calico Basin Road, where we began. Calico Hills in the background. And there you have Trailhead Peak. La Madre Mountains behind. And here's Brownstone Ridge. And now just to get our perspective as we close in on the trailhead. There hiding behind that bush. Let's see, maybe it's up here. There's the beast. There we go. I always lose it near the end. Can't find it. It's like somebody walked off with it, which wouldn't be too hard. And there's Jean's Trail. You can see people descending Jean's Trail that cuts through the outer loop we've just taken. Okay, now winding things up, heading back to the trailhead. So today we've made a complete outer circuit of the Calico Basin daily conditioning workout trail system. And we'll return and take some of the inner trails that we missed, like Jean's Trail, Powerline Maintenance Trail. But here we are back at the trailhead.